Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. It's Monday, August 26th, the last week of the month. So, we're going to start by taking a look here at the QQQ as usual here and see we got some people listening or watching right already. So, we're just going to jump into how I see things developing and just going to start on the daily chart here for the QQQ. And it's just essentially in a range. And this is it, right? Could go down to the 470s, could go up to the 480s, right? And I think right now, some kind of weakness is developing. It looks like I think price could go back and test levels because what's really normal and healthy in markets is like breaking out above resistance levels and then going back and retesting them. So I think going down to like maybe yeah, low 470s or so could be a healthy thing. So if it does happen, I wouldn't be worried about it. It's just normal. So that's basically what I'm looking at on the daily chart. And on the weekly chart, it just broke out, right? It broke out of that resistance completely. And that kind of supports sits around 462. So I think it's not ready to go down that low, really. But I could see the QQQs going back to the 470s just to retest that support on the daily chart here. Happy motoring. Good morning. Yeah, I'll go over Tesla in a little bit. Just looking at the SPY on the daily chart, it also has broken out, but the momentum is still continuing. It's wanting to go higher pre-market, but not sure how long that's going to last. Simply because you can look to the left and it's very, very close to the previous all-time high, right? So I'm not sure if it's ready to break this resistance. So it's still in a resistance zone. So any kind of push towards the previous all-time high, I think is a good possibility of getting rejected. So again, things are likely to go and backtest levels. So I would not get too excited about this pre-market action unless like prices eventually do close a daily candle above this and make an all-time high. Then maybe that'll be some confirmation that it wants to continue higher. But until then, it's still going to be resistance. So I don't think it's ready to break out yet. So just got to be patient with this one as well. And with the IWM, yeah, that one's up a little bit, $1.75, right? So this is doing very well pre-market, and it looks like it wants to challenge the previous highs up here. So I think this has a little bit more room to go towards the maybe 223s, maybe even 224s up here. I think that's a good possibility for the IWM. And essentially, what I'm seeing is the same thing on the weekly chart. Like it really wants to maybe challenge the higher highs up here. So maybe some weakness in the QQQ will rotate into this IWM because I believe it looks like it is ready to go higher. It's not really ready to go down yet, just simply because it just broke out. It broke out of that range just on Friday, right? So it was in this support range for the whole week. Then on Friday, it broke out. So I think there's looking like a continuation before it wants to back test any levels. And yeah, let's see. Let's go take a look at Tesla now, huh? Tesla. So Tesla is looking still pretty good on the daily chart, right? And I did mention the 219 level, and it does happen to be the bottom of the cloud, right? That is why I kind of mentioned it. But not only that, I went to the 1 hour chart just to show you guys how also is the top of the cloud there on the 1 hour chart right there around the 219, maybe a wick below, could be like in the 218s or so. So yeah, that's why I think 219 has a good shot of holding for Tesla for today and possibly for the rest of the week. We can go to the weekly chart and see this new weekly candle is going to open right here, right here. That's where it's going to open. Maybe 219.38, maybe a little bit lower, maybe a little bit higher. We don't know exactly, but it's going to open in this section of the cloud. That means it's going to open within the cloud, right? And that really is important because I think it's getting above some resistance levels, which means this bottom of the cloud down here around 216, 217, that is looking to be for me the weekly support that I wanted to hold, right? For the whole week, I'm looking just at that level. I want it couldn't wick below, that's fine. But for the week, I just want it to close back above, stay in the cloud. And then if price does stay in the cloud, even if it drifts down, it's still going to gravitate towards the top, I believe. So that's what I'm really looking at for Tesla here for the weekly chart for the whole week, right? So it's looking good. It's looking pretty close to a support level, but I don't want it to break below for the week. Don't want it to go below the cloud for a weekly candle close. But again, on a day-to-day close, that's fine. But for the week on Friday, I want it to close above. Hello, chill crypto. And let's see what else we got going on here. Let's look at NVIDIA. They're reporting earnings in 2 days, right? It says right there, 2 days they're reporting earnings. So let's see. Let's see where it's looking like for yeah, it's basically flat pre-market. We'll look at the daily chart. We'll see that it is trying to work its way above the daily cloud. So if it does open there, that means support is going to be around 127 or so. And it's looking like all these candles here are being resistance for it. So it's like in a very, very tight range. Very tight range. Not sure if it's ready to break out or not. It already had a big move into earnings. So anything that people are betting on going higher before earnings, I'm not sure how likely that is, just given that there is more resistance above here in the 130s, right? So I think the potential to go to maybe 135 is there before earnings, but it's just going to be stuck in this range, I think, for a couple of days, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And also, let's see. So that will be Monday, that'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, right? So basically, the cloud does go down by the time earnings comes out, right? So that leaves the possibility of maybe earnings going back down to like the 120s, maybe 121, 120 down here, 119, 118. That leads that the possibility for a back test of the bottom of the cloud, right? So we need to understand that the support can go lower and it still be support, right? So this is just proof right here on the daily chart that it is going down, but it's still going to be support, even if NVIDIA in the following days does continue lower. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let's see, Evergreen's 100% tariffs on EVs, says Canada. You think Lucid will go up because of this? Well, we can just look at Lucid chart. I don't base my analysis on any news at all because I only follow the charts, and the charts tell the story. And the charts are telling me right here that Lucid has already gone up from the 280s all the way up to the 416s. So it's already made that move, right? And on the weekly chart, we can see it's gotten back in the cloud. So there is some positive developments here for sure, right? But let's turn on some moving averages. Yeah, and it's above the 50 as well. So, can this momentum continue? I think it's possible now, right? Now that it's above most of the previous resistance, now it's looking like it could be a support, right? So, if Lucid is going up on news, I don't think that matters. It's going up because of the technicals, and the technicals are saying that possibly this week Lucid support could be around 380, right? The bottom of the cloud. So I think, or even go back down to the 354 of the 50-week moving average. So that's kind of the range, but it is kind of clear to continue up, right? There's really no resistance until maybe 480, like these previous highs over here. That's around 480. So I think it has the potential to get there, or maybe even up to the top of the cloud around 570, right? So the charts are saying that it's able to go higher, right? That's what they're saying. But it's also saying it could go back and retest some levels as well. So, but it's becoming more and more bullish. I never thought I would say that about Lucid, but yeah, getting above all this resistance here and closing a weekly candle in the cloud, that's not a bad thing. So, yeah. Yeah, if you're looking for it to continue, the possibility is finally in your favor. Let's look at some PayPal here. Yeah, PayPal. I drew that line, that black line across. I'll just get rid of all this stuff first because I don't really need it. That's your resistance spot, right? You can see that it was a support here, support. support, support, flip to a resistance up here. And what do you know? Flip into a resistance. So that means it has the potential to go towards the top of this high right here into the 75s, maybe 76s up there, which would be like right up here, maybe wicking above the arc a little bit. But essentially, it's in a resistance zone starting when Friday it went up there, right? And then where is it going to go next? It has the potential to keep pressing up against that resistance, right? And challenging it because a lot of people, a lot of weekly candles, they like to do multiple weeks around the resistance just to get the buyers trapped, and then they send it lower, right? So this is a very common thing where it hovers around a resistance zone for like a couple weeks or so, and then it goes lower. But we'll see. Daily chart, you can see that daily resistance 1, 2, 3, like 3 days in a row, it hit that resistance zone right there, right? So you can't really get too excited about being at resistance. I know I can't. A lot of people do because they buy the hype, but I don't, right? So what I'm really looking at is I want to retrace back down to maybe 68 down to 65, right? From 68 to 65, I think that would be a great zone to start to accumulate for PayPal. And best case scenario, I think you'd go back down to the 62s and retest the cloud to continue higher. Like that would be the last opportunity to really buy at a cheaper level, right? Because it would be a successful breakout and then a successful backtest of it if that did happen. But I think anywhere from 68 down to 65 is a good start because there's still looking like a lot of support in this zone for PayPal. Let's see, EOS. EOS Synergy. So looking at EOS here, yeah, it's looking like it's pretty extended from some support levels here. We'll just go to the left of the chart as well here. Let's see. Let me take off this Ichimoku. Yeah, if I use the daily chart here, we can see that just by drawing a line, kind of like right here where current price is, right? You can see that in the past, it was a resistance, right? And then a support zone right here, and then more of a support zone right here, and a resistance zone right here, and a resistance here. So it's back to a resistance zone, essentially, right? But it's kind of on the top side of that. So this week is kind of important, and it needs to stay daily candles above that resistance zone for me to think it wants to build a new base to continue higher. But if candles start to close below like that 235 zone, then I think there's a potential to go back and retest levels. But essentially, I'm just watching around 235 for EOS right there. I want it to continue to close candles above. If it does, then I think it's building a new base to continue to the orange level up into the 290s. But on a weekly basis, it did shoot up a lot, and it's also back to a resistance zone with the previous weeks here in July, right? So it still can't close weekly candles above this level here. So just got to keep an eye on it. But the good news is it's still in the cloud. But the cloud does go way down here, so it can come back down, right, and retest levels. So essentially, the true support that I'm really looking at is starting at 235, but I want these levels to start to hold as well if that does break the low twos, right? That's exactly what I'm looking at for maybe a breakout here and maybe a back test of the cloud could be the low twos or the high ones, right? Maybe 190 or so. But essentially, let's see if it can hold daily candles above 235 for the rest of the week. And if that's the case, then I think it can go higher. But just keep an eye on that level, and then these levels below should be good support if it does drop. Okay, let's see. Is SOFI ready to break out past $8? Danny's weekly chart has a red candle. Yeah, Danny's chart does have a red candle for SOFI here. And is it really ready to break out? Well, let's take a look here. So, yeah, so basically, Friday had a pretty good candle close, right? It did close higher than all of these other daily candles, right? So that's a good thing, right? And on the daily chart, it's back above the cloud, and it's back above basically a lot of the resistance levels there. The one thing I'm looking at though is that 200-day moving average, which is at 751. So price is pre-market 762, so this is a good thing, right? And price did on Friday close above that 751 by 1 penny. So essentially, I'm going to start to assume that 751 is support now. And since that 751 is support, any kind of backtest might be a good thing for a breakout and a backtest to continue higher. So let's go to the weekly chart here for PayPal. And it looks like it's even going to open a weekly candle above this weekly resistance right here. And I always pay attention to how candles open because they're just as important than how they close. So the weekly candle is looking to open right here at 762, which is above the baseline, above the 50-week moving average. That in itself is bullish, right? That is bullish, bullish, bullish. So yes, it looks like Danny's red candle is going to play out, and I think what's coming up next is a possibility to go up to the $8. Yeah, but is it ready to break out of that $8 range? I don't know yet, right? We can see that essentially my 45-degree angle right there is going to be some resistance, and you can see it is this week right here. You go straight up. It's exactly the same point as the bottom of the cloud, like exactly, and that's at 808. So I think this is going to be some pretty big resistance when it gets there. So the bias, I think, is to the upside. Yeah, I think it has room to run. I think it has room to go to 8, maybe 810, but I'm not sure if it's going to break on a weekly close. So we'll have to watch that weekly candle close for SOFI. Yeah, that's my analysis. So it looks like near USD, we're doing some crypto now. Crypto. So yeah, near had a fantastic weekly candle, right? Just a monster 26% week. Also closed above all this resistance right here. That is what I wanted to see for near. And essentially, it is above the conversion line. And it's above the 200-week moving average once again. So I think that's going to put a new floor maybe for near, maybe 470, right? So I think that could be your new support for near for a potential to continue higher, right? To go maybe up towards the baseline up here or around $6, or just maybe where this previous candle broke down up here in the 545s, right? So I think there is some good some good momentum here, but things do like to backtest levels after they had a monster week. So just give it some time, but I think the rest of the week has the potential to continue higher. And let's see another one with ARB. Yeah, this one's still not breaking above resistance. So 62 cents still resistance, but this could be a support zone here. But essentially, I think this kind of formation is looking like a double bottom down here. But also, if it does break that conversion line, there's going to be resistance back up here. When price gets back up to the 75, 78 cent zone, it's going to just bump into some resistance with this previous support here. And you can see, drawing a line, that previous support was flipped to a resistance already. So it's going to be resistance on the way up to 80 cents. So that's what I'm looking at. Not too bullish for ARB. Let's see. PLTR. Let's look at Palantir. Tier. All right. So Palantir, on my weekly chart, we talked about this a lot on Sunday, Danny, Kat, and me on the live stream that we did. And we all are in agreement that it's probably at some kind of resistance right now, right? But long term, still really bullish. Short term, it's going to open up this week right here, right? That's where it's going to open in 9 minutes. It's going to open its candle below that angle still. And if you've been watching me, you've been knowing that I've been paying attention to this angle, and it's still resistance, and that means there's still going to be a loss of momentum, which means that even if price did go up to 33, that's still resistance, right? So either way, I'm thinking that it's going to lose some momentum over the next maybe days or weeks or whatever, and it's gonna maybe open near that conversion line right up there, and that's at 31.34. But if it loses that on any daily close, then I think it'll gravitate down, maybe closer to the cloud down here, right? Is $27 possible? Yes, it's possible, but there could be some support right here first, right? We'll just draw a line right there where all these daily candles met. There's going to be some support there first around $29, right? That's going to be your first level. So I'm thinking that's probably where price is going to head, just because it's looking like a rounding top and wants to at least go back to 29, maybe even 27.30, right? But those should be considered opportunities. And I think after a successful backtest of whatever this range is, then it's ready to continue higher. But still, this angle is going to be resistance until proven otherwise. But I think it could be resistance forever now, right? Price could just drift this way continuously, right? So we'll see. We'll see about that. But essentially, it's still very bullish. It just needs time to cool off. And I see a request for GME. GME. So just looking at GME here on the weekly chart, you can see it already had its successful backtest right here. It went to the cloud and it went to the 100, and now it's just stuck. It's stuck in a range, right? It also lost my angle of support right here, this green angle. It was support for a while, but then it lost it. Now price is stuck, right? Is it going to go up to the 24, or is it going to go back down to the 19s, right? So maybe the daily chart can tell us something. And it looks like it's just stuck under more resistance there too on the daily chart, right? You got all this resistance right here in the 2250s. Then you got more up here in the $24 range. But at least you have support here at 21.45. So I think that could be your opportunity for GME, the 2150s or so. But yeah, it's just stuck on the weekly chart. And path. UI path. Yeah, that one had some good momentum recently, right? So just looking at Friday's candle close, that's a bullish close, right? It's a bullish close. Not only was it the highest daily close in a very long time, but it also closed back in the cloud. And that means to me that I think the bottom of the cloud looks pretty good right now, around 1220, 1228. And on the weekly chart here, I do see some good developments of breaking back above angles too, right? It's finally getting back above that gray angle. So I think there's a potential to push higher, like up to the 1290s or $13 zone. So that's looking better and better for UI path, right? It had that huge bearish engulfing candle down there, right? That was very, very bearish. But I think now it's time that it's on top of the conversion line. It's time to build some of that back, right? So there is going to be some resistance above in the 13s, or even the top of these candles around 13.15 or so. But after that, it should be good to go, like a little bit higher, right? All the way up to the 14s possibly, right? Maybe even 15s to these 100-day moving average. So I think the trend is starting to reverse a little bit, and it's all starting right here on the daily chart. Oh, you're welcome, Philco. So HBAR, yeah, we'll look at HBAR real quick. So this one was an obvious rejection. I think all I need is the daily chart. Obvious rejection of my arc that I had set for a long time. You can see it was a support, flipped to a resistance. So now it's looking for a new support, a new higher low. So that could be maybe 5.7, could be down here at 5.4, right? So I think it's also reversing this downtrend though, because from here it's starting to make higher candle closes, right, on the daily chart. So essentially it's near support, but still lots of resistance above. So I think it's also stuck for a while. We'll see if it has the momentum to break through this resistance up here at 0.062. But yeah, it's just stuck. ZRO. Binance. Yeah, why not? Yeah, so ZRO on the daily chart starting to break above support too. So I'm going to consider that 390 level. That's going to be your support level. Is it going to break out of this start of the formation of the cloud here? Maybe not, right? Maybe it's going to get stuck around there too. So it's just in the middle of the range. But on the daily chart or the weekly chart, it's trying to break back above that conversion line that's forming, right? So essentially, I think weekly candles need to continue to close above 416. If they do, then it has the potential to continue higher. But if not, then it'll go back to the 390s or a little bit below to retest levels. So that's what I think there. Could you look at ANF? Abercrombie and Fitch. So yeah, look at ANF. Look at ANF. Wow. It had a really, really good breakout, right? But you can see how well these indicators work. Like, look at that. Once it broke above all this resistance, it just didn't stop. So, like, that was the opportunity down here. Like, now, I don't know. Now, what does it look like? It looks like it's still kind of breaking out, right? It's got back above the 153 zone. But I'm going to consider this still some loss of momentum because it still cannot get back above these highs, right? So until it starts closing weekly candles above these candles here, maybe 185, then I can't really get too excited. So I'm going to consider it just support is down here in the 150s, but resistance is up here in the 180s, maybe 190, right? So essentially, it might just trade sideways for a while until it gets to the cloud, right? Because I don't know if it's ready to continue this massive momentum move, this push, right? It already had it. It had a huge breakout from the 20s, right, all the way up here to the 180s. Like, it's been ridiculous, ridiculous. So essentially, this is why I look for opportunities on breakouts, right? Because breakouts always happen, and when they do happen, sometimes they have a lot of momentum, just like this one. But now is not the time, in my opinion, until it either breaks out into all-time highs or it comes back and retests the cloud as support. I think that the high time frame support down here in the 110s, 112s, 115s, I think that is kind of your opportunity. Yeah, but I just saw your comment. And earnings in 2 days. Yeah. Earnings in 2 days when it's near and when it's in between levels, that just means it can go either way for Abercrombie and Fitch, right? Like, if it was earnings at support, I'd be like, yeah, that's probably a good opportunity. Or if it was like earnings at resistance, I'm like, oh, that's probably going to just get rejected and go lower, right? But earnings in the middle of a range, it just could go either way. So I that's why I don't really like to play earnings. I like to play the high time frame support. And to me, that's high time frame support sits down here. It's not right here. All right. Yeah, so we'll look at HNT. So HNT weekly chart here. Yeah, it's looking really in the middle of a range too. But the good news is it looks like it is wanting to hold this baseline and the top of the cloud as a support. So I'm going to consider 609, 610. That zone is your support zone, but resistance is still going to be up from $7 up to maybe 750. Just these candles here, they can't break above. So it's just stuck to a little bit. But if it does start to close more candles on top of the cloud, then I'll be a lot more bullish and it'll be able to break through this resistance above. So just pay attention to maybe getting weekly candles above like 710 and then close that above 710 to continue higher. Been following you on X for a long time. Appreciate your work and thoughts. Thank you, Giga Eater. Yeah, and if there's a problem on X, just go to YouTube because YouTube has a better stream. Yeah. Sometimes X has a problem. And hymns. So I think the market just opened. Yeah. So we'll see what things look like with the market open here, and we'll go look at some of these live charts over here. or live price action, I should say. So it's looking like HIMS is still just in a range. Support is down here at 1557, maybe at 1560 or so. But resistance is still all up here, right? So I think what's possible is still it's going to ride this angle up and eventually break through all this resistance, but just got to give it time, right? No rush, no rush at all. I don't see it breaking above all this anytime soon. But once it gets on top of my arcs here, I think it'll be ready to go higher. Let's just look at the market real quick here. So yeah, Enphase, look at that. Up $4 for Enphase. I've been talking such bullishness about Enphase. And this is the reason why. It got back above all that resistance level, so now there's nothing below it but support. And the only resistance above is the previous candles here, and the top of the cloud sits at 150. So I'm really bullish on Enphase, and I've been bullish on it since it's been in the low 100s, right? So the opportunities were there. Just have to pay attention to them. Let's see, Tesla down $3. So yeah, which is fine. It's doing some good things, going back and testing the bottom of the cloud early on in the week, which is good. Get it out of the way, right? Just test it, and maybe it'll hold. And if that does hold as a good support for the week, then I can see price going up to the top of the cloud into the 226 or 227, right? So that's a good thing. It's a good thing it's going down there now to testing that as a support, and let's see if that can hold. It can even go lower and be just a big wick, so who cares? But as long as on Friday this closes back in the cloud, then that's okay. And I think I saw something, yeah, ATH. Yeah, ATH dollar. Let's look at that one. Is there a better one? KuCoin. Yeah, there's really nothing you can do with this and with my kind of analysis. I mean, the only thing I can use is like a daily chart, and the daily chart is showing weakness, right? So it's under every resistance indicator up here. That means it's challenging to get above, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But since it had a massive breakout already, not sure what's going to happen. But I do know 0.063 is resistance, and it's going to be resistance until a daily candle can start to close above it. But these charts are really too young to do anything further than that. So I think with that, you have to just realize it's under a lot of resistance, and price could drift lower. But also at the same time, this is also building higher lows here as well. So you have to pay attention to that. So it could just be in a tight range, but really would need more data on the weekly chart to determine which direction. But right now, it just looks stuck to me. Am I concerned about the USD JPY weakness? Let's see. The Nikkei did close down. That yeah, I mean it's below the weekly resistance there that I had set for my charts. So I think it's going towards a support. I think it's going to go back to one of my lines I have drawn here, which is like 142. So I think that could be the target before it wants to bounce. So I think, am I concerned about it? No, not really, because it's done it before, right? It's gone down there before. It's gone up. It's just been in a downtrend for a while. But it's going back to one of my levels that I have there too. So that's fine. All right, we'll look at other things here. Go back to the markets. We'll look at ARKK. Yeah, that's at resistance. 200-day moving average, it can't break above for ARKK. So that's going to be the target, 46.44. That zone for the rest of the week. Let's see if it can close above. And yeah. Yeah, I think everything's kind of normal, right? All the miners, they're just following Bitcoin. Bitcoin's down a little bit, so the miners are following it as well, right? So essentially, no change, right? Oh, you want to look at CMG? Chipotle? Ooh, same thing. 200-day moving average getting stuck, right? Getting stuck right there. I think that's the story right there. If it can break above on daily candle closes, it'll have room to go higher. But if not, it won't, right? So I think that's all that matters because there's more resistance up here at 55, 55.50. But essentially, this is the main thing right here. You got to pay attention to 54.16. Got to close a day above it. Otherwise, it's just going to be in a range from the 52.70s all the way up to current price. One final look, and then I think I'll call it a morning because things are just doing what they're supposed to be doing as usual. Yeah, yeah. End phase looking super great. Looking really for a push into the 140s and 150s for end phase. Let's see. ARKK, yeah. Microsoft is flat. Like, yeah, everything. NVIDIA, yeah, that's getting above the cloud, right? So this is what I was saying in pre-market. I was saying it's going to be support here and resistance up here, maybe into the 135. So that's just going to be probably the range before the earnings. And let's see. Let's see what happens. Like the closer it gets to resistance, though, before earnings, the more skeptical I'll be just because I don't like things at resistance. But there would be a possibility of gapping up after earnings and continuing too. So can't rule that out. But if you know me, I'm very cautious at resistance. And the closer it gets to these 135 levels, then the more cautious I will get. So essentially, that's all I have for today. Yeah, just pay attention to those levels. And especially for Tesla, just pay attention to the weekly chart here. Just make sure it stays within the cloud the whole week. I mean, it can go below a little bit more. That's fine. But I want it to close on Friday above and closer to the 225 level. So that's it for today, guys. And I'll see you tomorrow.